Hello, my friends. Let's start with the fact that last night Russia sent a large number of drones into Polish territory through Ukraine. In reality, Russia has just attacked Poland, a NATO member. As a result, the Polish Rzeszów airport was shut down due to unplanned military activity. One of the drones is reportedly moving toward the city where the logistics hub is located, the hub through which Western weapons for the Ukrainian army pass. In response, Poland scrambled F 16s and later reports mentioned F 35s. Due to the Shahed drone attack, Poland most likely launched F 16s. Flight radar data also suggests that a Saab 340 early warning aircraft was in the sky, though this hasn't been officially confirmed. Monitoring channels report that Romania also deployed F 16s, while Hungary, Slovakia, and the Netherlands activated their air forces as well. In fact, these can already be considered an attack on NATO countries. And at this point, missiles should immediately be flying toward Russian territory, targeting all military facilities. Otherwise, Putin will continue his strikes. Right now, he's essentially testing the red lines. Later, almost at 2 a.m., Shaheds kept flying toward Poland. New Shaheds are entering Polish airspace. Some of those already inside Poland are heading toward Warsaw. Shaheds are also spotted over Moldova, and there are Shaheds in Belarus as well. And Poland has made a statement. The operational command of the Polish armed forces announced that for the safety of Polish airspace, all necessary procedures had to be activated. Polish and allied aircraft are operating in our skies, while ground based air defense and radar systems have reached the highest level of readiness, the statement said. At the same time, during the night, Poland was in no hurry to officially announce that they had shot down Russian Shaheds, but preliminary information suggests that they actually did. Russian drones are attacking Poland. Shahed drones have crossed the border and are moving toward Polish cities, monitoring groups report. The Rzeszów airport, the main hub for weapons supplies to Ukraine, was closed in an emergency. Polish aviation was scrambled, air defense is active. There are unconfirmed reports of drones being shot down. Cities under threat include Helm, Zamość, Lublin, and Rzeszów. Monitoring channels report that some drones have already been downed, but new waves are still coming in through Volyn toward Poland. Warsaw hasn't made any official statements yet. The night is unfolding in a state of anticipation of strikes. Meanwhile, Russians on their Telegram channels were openly celebrating the fact that they had started striking Poland. Around 95 Russian combat drones are flying over Ukraine and Poland. The drones continue moving in chains across northern Ukraine, some heading straight for Poland. Strike Gerants are flying toward Poland also from Belarus, followed by Russian Air Force fighter jets, enemy monitoring sources claim. A video shows Polish Air Force fighter jets right now in the skies near the Polish city of Lublin. Overall, the question now is what action NATO countries will take against Russia. Friends, be sure to share your predictions in the comments. Will it be just another deep concern, or will there be real retaliation against Russia? It looks like Putin has decided to test the reaction of the Poles. And there is no doubt that the strikes will continue because tonight Russia already carried out another attack on Ukraine. The war is only gaining momentum. And Putin has no plans to end it. That's why the UK Secretary of Defense said aid to Ukraine needs to be increased. UK Defense Secretary John Healey announced plans for London to fund the production of long-range drones for Ukraine on UK soil. Over the next 12 months, the UK will fund thousands of long-range drones, which we will produce in Britain and supply to Ukraine, the minister said at the 30th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, the Ramstein format. Meanwhile, Trump once again stated that he is determined to end this war, though he is dissatisfied with the current results. Trump said that, as before, he is strongly committed to achieving a peaceful resolution in Ukraine. At the same time, he blamed Russia for delaying any solution to end the war. He noted that achieving peace in Ukraine once seemed the easiest of all problems, but the situation has become more complicated due to mutual hostility at the leadership level. Now, let's move on to the very difficult situation along the front line, starting with the Dobropillia direction. Here, the Russians are storming Sofiivka and Shahed, but there have been no changes along the front line so far. However, there is a very important note. On the map, we can see offensive actions toward Sofiivka marked from the west. Yet, the Russians claim they are advancing on Sofiivka from the east, so it's possible the Russians are expanding the territory they control near Poltavka. We are waiting for further updates on the map, but activity here is definitely not decreasing. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians continue storming Rodinske and are trying to recapture lost territory. In Novoekonomichne, fighting is ongoing near Mirolюбівка, Промінь, and Suchy Yar. They are pushing toward Novopavlivka, the outskirts of Pokrovsk, storming Novopidgorodny and Molodetske, and advancing near Udachne, Kotlane, and Zvirve. Over the past day, the Russians carried out more than 60 assaults. Ukrainian forces are urgently trying to weaken the Russians to reduce activity on the front. Late yesterday evening, there were again strikes reported near Donetsk. Details are still awaited, and the Ukrainian forces also released a video showing Russian losses near Balahan, confirming that the Russians are present practically in the fields near Myrnograd. The situation here is difficult, and the Russians continue to push toward the city at any cost. In the Novopavlivka direction, activity is incredibly high, around 50 assaults in a single day. Such intensity has never been recorded here before. The Russians are already advancing through Dnipropetrovsk region and are trying to capture parts of Donetsk region completely. Today, fighting is ongoing for Dachne and Filia. They are storming Zeleny High and pushing near Iskra. They are also attacking the villages of Tolstoy and Pidubne, storming Alexandrograd, and trying to enter Novopavlivka forest. And also, Ukrainian soldiers report that Filia is currently in the gray zone. In the Gulay-Pole direction, the Russians are storming Olhivske and Poltavka, but so far the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks and no changes have been recorded. In the Zaporizhia direction, no new assaults have been recorded so far, but the Russians continue shelling the frontline areas and are actively using FPV drones. This suggests they're preparing for new attacks. Reports indicate that Russian Mavic drone managed to fly fairly close to Zaporizhia and conduct reconnaissance. The Russian Mavic is observing Zaporizhia from a relatively close distance. FPV drones continue entering the city, which is certainly concerning. It appears the front line has moved slightly closer to Zaporizhia. The drones are already trying to get nearer to the city. Therefore, if new breakthroughs occur, the situation will likely worsen. In the Kherson direction, the Russians are pushing near the Antonivsky Bridge and shell on the right bank. So far, there have been no changes over the past day, but Russian activity remains high and they are attempting to advance onto the right bank. In the Konstantinivka direction, the Russians are storming Stupochky, breaking through near Bila Hora, assaulting Pleshiivka, and fighting is ongoing near Katerinivka and Poltavka. However, there have been no changes over the past day. The Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks, although the situation remains very difficult. In the Kramatorsk direction, the Russians are storming Minkivka and Bondarne. But so far, over the past day, there have been no changes and all attacks are successfully repelled. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are advancing toward Yampil, storming Serebryanka, and pushing in the areas of Grigorievka and Vyemka. However, over the past day, the Russians have had no success and the front line remains unchanged. In the Lyman direction, the Russians managed to advance in Zarichne. Their breakthrough measures about 900 meters. This happened after the general staff had declared the village fully under Ukrainian forces' control. After that, the Russians carried out a series of assaults and seized positions in the settlement. Reports indicate that the Russians took down the Ukrainian flag that was on the church and raised their Russian flag instead. Attacks continue in the area of Kolodezi village and they are storming Shandrigolove, Glushenkove, and Novopavlivka. The situation here remains extremely difficult and the front is gradually moving forward. Local soldiers describe the situation as um, the problems are so serious that it's really intense. The Russians have nearly reached Dronivka from the Serebryanka forestry and are already trying to mark locations for establishing crossings. In the area of Shandrigolova, the problems are no less severe. Small infantry groups sometimes even reach Novoselivka and Drobosheva. Yes, they are later destroyed, but this is no longer just warning signs. It's a full-on battle. It will be very bad if the Russians manage to impose simultaneous fights for Siversk, Lyman, and Sviatohirsk. In the Borova direction, the Russians are advancing toward Novoplatonivka, but they have had no success, and the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are pushing toward the village of Myrne, trying to recapture lost positions, and are also storming the outskirts of Kupiansk. Fighting continues in the area of Petropavlivka, but over the past day there have been no changes along the front line. In the Dvorichne direction, the Russians are advancing in the area of Stroyevka, but their activity is slow and so far all attacks are being successfully repelled. in the Kharkiv direction. The Russians haven't carried out any new assaults, and the situation remains stable. In Vovchansk, fighting continues, although it hasn't led to any changes along the front line. In the Sumy direction, the Russians are assaulting the village of Kostantinivka and pushing through near Andriivka. However, the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks, and there have been no changes along the front line. Uh, Today, information also appeared regarding Trump's demands to Europe on sanctions against Russia. We are ready to act. Ready right now, but we will only do so if our European partners join us, said one US official. Another American official added that Washington is prepared to mirror any European Union tariffs on China and India, which could potentially lead to further increases in US import duties from both countries. Trump's proposal comes amid White House frustration over difficulties in achieving a peace deal and increasingly aggressive Russian airstrikes on Ukraine. The president joined in this morning, and his stance is clear. The obvious approach is to impose dramatic tariffs all at once and maintain them until the Chinese agree to stop buying oil. There are no other markets for this oil, explained the US official. Overall, we are now waiting to see what decisions will be made. And the president of Poland stated that Russia will not stop and is planning to invade other countries, so Poland is already preparing. This was announced by Karol Nawrocki at a press conference with his Finnish counterpart Alexander Stubb in Helsinki. We don't trust Putin's good intentions. Of course, expecting long-term lasting peace necessary for our regions. We believe that Putin is also ready to invade other countries, Nawrocki said, adding that against this background, Poland is developing its armed forces, partnerships, and alliances, though he didn't name specific measures. According to him, the security architecture across the region has changed, and US President Donald Trump is the only leader of the free world who can compel Putin to negotiate. Alexander Stubb added that Europeans are trying to explain to Trump that Putin cannot be trusted and that he is using his usual tactic of buying time. Meanwhile, Kartapolov already stated that they are ready to protect the Finnish population and, like in Ukraine, would invade their territory if necessary.
Because Finland is pursuing a completely irresponsible policy by its leadership, it is essentially becoming a breeding ground for fascism, like Ukraine. I feel very sorry for the Finnish people, who have endured so much and do not deserve the situation they are currently in. I very much hope that sooner or later the Finnish people will realize this. But if this utterly inept policy of the current Finnish leadership leads to any tragic consequences, it will be on their conscience. We know how to protect our interests, and we are ready for any scenario.
Overall, Russia seems to enjoy waging war, and the conflict is gaining momentum. France, what do you think about this? Could this escalate into a third world war? Okay, that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.